I'm Neil Lockhart, and we are at the Bel Air Community Center at Bel Air, Illinois, which is about 2 miles from my house.
You said you grew up around here, right?
I've lived here. I've lived in the house that I'm living in now, where my garden is, my whole life.
I want to just ask you a kind of a big general question, which is, why do you save seeds?
If you don't save seeds, how are you going to grow them next year?
How did you first hear about seed savers?
Actually, the first time I knew anything about the seed savers, I don't know what publication that I had, but they had like a little square inch ad in something, but I did not join in that point in time. I did not join until probably 1992, and then that first year I was just a member, but the next year I became a listed member. But I had been saving seeds probably, I don't know, maybe for 10 years before that. Both of my, from both sides of my family, but my grandparents was all gardeners, and my parents were gardeners too. So I'd say I've got some of the gardening blood running through my veins, probably.
For people who don't already know, can you describe what it means to be a listed member?
Well, that means that you have saved a lot of seeds, and it can be any kind of fruit or vegetable or flower or whatever, and you offer them through the Seed Savers Exchange in their yearbook, and you offer your seeds in there, and you exchange seeds, trade seeds with people all over the world. I don't know, and as time goes on, you just keep making more contacts with people, and pretty soon you don't have to look for new tomatoes and stuff. They just start coming to you. You make friends out there along the way, and they keep you in new tomato varieties, new heirloom varieties to try. And well, the most influential person that would come to my mind is Carolyn Mayo. She was a member of the Seed Savers Exchange and very close friend of mine for many years. There's a lot of tomatoes in my garden this year that I planted just specifically, not just because they're good, but because they're Carolyn Mayo tomatoes. In the last, even though Carolyn wasn't very active in the Seed Savers Exchange because of her health issues that she was plagued with for so many years, there were still half a dozen of us that basically I talked her in to still collect seeds and give them to us. We'll grow the seeds, and you can still be a part of this even though you're not an active member and don't have to do a lot of work. If you collect these seeds from your tomato seeds from the contacts that you've made over the years, and then give it to us, you're still a big contributor, And I probably have 15 or 20 varieties from Carolyn Mayo that there ain't nobody else other than the source and me that probably have, and I feel it's very important to get them out there, for other people to try, because I can give you a little story on a tomato. Many years ago, I got a tomato off of Carolyn with the simple name of Wes. Well, I grew Wes for several years, and it was one of my favorite tomatoes. But I let this tomato Wes slip through my fingers, and nobody else in the exchange hardly was growing it but 2 people. I'll not mention their names, but I got seeds from both of them people within the next 2 years, after my seed was like 15 years since I'd made it grow out of it and was really old. I planted these other people's seeds, and that did not give me the Wes tomato that I knew that I had. Well, finally this next year, there was a lady in the Seed Savers that acquired a seed collection, we'll say, and she offered the variety Wes, but it was from this other man's old seed collection. Well, she sent me my 25 Wes seeds in the mail, and I planted half of them to begin with. I had finally, after 3 weeks, 1 seedling came up. So I took the other half and I made sure I did a really nice job and planted the other 3. That 1 plant was the only Wes that I got to come up. when he was on the growing table with the other tomatoes, I put him in the center, so, you know, and something might happen to one out on the edge, but I protected him in the middle. Of course, I was nervous all year about that tomato. As soon as I set him out in the garden, I immediately put a tomato cage over him so a bird or something would not peck him. Anyway, I'm watching that tomato develop, and there was one that set really early on the tomato, on the plant, you know, and was hanging out of the cage over the side. Well, it got so big that on my cages they're 4x4 squares, you know, and that tomato got so it was squishing in between the wires. So I had to spread the wires to make him bigger. Anyway, I'm watching to see if he's going to be seeing if the Wes Tomato is going to be the correct color first. I already knew it was the correct shape because you could see the heart, you know, shape come on early, but finally it started coloring up, and I'd go out there every day to see how much more it'd turn. I mean, I checked on that tomato daily, and finally the day that I picked him, I thought he needs one more day on the vine to be perfectly ripe, but not that that's going to hurt me for seed saving purposes, but he needs one more day on the vine to be perfectly ripe. Well, there was forecasting a heavy rain the next day, so I waited until dark the evening before to picking, and then I let him sit on the counter in the house for a day before I sliced it. And like I say, it was the best tomato, not just because I nurtured it, it was the best tomato that I ate last year. You know, I had originally got it off of Carolyn Mail, and I believe she got it off of, this is from memory, but I believe she got it off of a lady many years ago that was in the Seed Savers Exchange or not. That was Rosella Richardson, I believe. That could be not right, but I believe that's correct. But I searched far and wide to get that tomato back, and it was just about lost. It ain't no more. There's 3 out in my garden, and I have not only seeds off of that 1.5 pound, I have the rest of the plant. You know, I collected several hundred seeds off of it, so I'm confident that it will survive for now. If I could get other people to grow it out.
How did you get started growing tomatoes?
Well, like I say, I've always been a gardener because of my grandparents. They both had probably as large gardens as what I did, and my mom and dad usually had a pretty large garden. And actually what got me on the tomato kick is corn and potatoes are probably my favorite things out in the garden. And one year I just started, I decided I would see how many different varieties I could come up with. So I went to all the greenhouses within about 50 miles of here in a radius and seen how many varieties I could come up with. And I came up with 20-some varieties, and that kind of started me in. I saved seeds off a few of them that I knew was heirlooms, and then soon after that probably became a member of the Seed Savers. But I was already doing my own Seed Savers before I had started in with the Seed Savers Exchange.
Do you remember what was the first tomato that you grew?
Yes, I do. Brandywine. I can tell you a little story on that. Some of the first seeds that I saved was out of the Brandywine tomato, and I put them in nothing but a paper envelope, you know, like you would use at Seed Savers Exchange. Stored them in the dark inside a plastic jar, inside a drawer in my bedroom. 26 years later, just by chance, I happened to pull that pack of seeds out that was 26 years old. And even though I already had Brandywine planted for that year, I pulled them other Brandywine seeds out. I just wanted to see if I could get anything to germinate. Now, let me tell you, I probably planted 200 seeds, and it probably took them a month to germinate, but I got 3 seeds to come up out of 26-year-old seed. Is there tricks to getting old seed to come up? There is, but I'm not going to tell you all of them. There's more than one method. Each person uses their own methods. There's many methods, but if a seed has got any germination in it or whatever, if it's a tomato seed, I will get it to come up. I mean, if you give me a decent sample of seeds, I've been sent seeds by Carolyn Mail and other people. They said we don't think there's no germination left in them. There is.
Do you have advice for anyone who's dealing with old tomato seeds?
Well, my first thing it would be telling them that if you're really wanting to preserve them and keep them for a long time, get them in the freezer. Make sure they're airtight and put them in the freezer. They'll keep forever. You're not losing no germination while you're in the freezer as long as they're airtight. Now, just keeping them at room temperature, I feel confident. I can show you my pots on some of the old seeds that I planted and what year I said the saved seeds were from. You know, I can show you, like, for instance, I know I planted 4 or 5 varieties from '09 that germinated just fine for me. Did I sow more seeds than you normally would? Yes, but that's what seed preservation is about. You know, if you're working with somebody in the Seed Savers Exchange, a big collector like me, Bill Mickey, and other people that has huge collections of tomatoes, don't complain that you only got 1 or 2. Be happy that you got any to come up with, because we are maintaining thousands and we're doing more work than we can possibly do, you know, than any one person can do.
How many kinds of tomatoes are in your garden today?
There is 192 varieties right now in my garden. And I have about 100 more that hopefully will be set out within the next week. And then probably 30 or 40 that'll be 3 or 4 weeks from now.
So what is your growing process? Like, how do you get them to not cross-pollinate?
For one thing, a tomato's got a perfect blossom. It doesn't need anything to pollinate it. It will pollinate itself. Possibly a honeybee. Yeah, bet you don't see one today around my house. The honeybees don't work a tomato, but a bumblebee is what I meant, will work a tomato a little bit. If you maintain 4, 5, or 6 foot, most of the time you're not going to get a cross-pollination. I'm not telling you that I haven't never had a tomato cross-pollinate, but it's rare. And sometimes in cross-pollinations that you get, that doesn't mean all the seeds you saved are cross-pollinated. It can be only 1 tomato on the whole plant, you know, that you got a mixed seed in. You think, okay, so if you're seed saving, then you don't save unless you like it, seeds off of what's cross-pollinated. You save for that variety what you only know is true, and make sure it is not close. Like if you've got, say, 3 plants and the end one produced a tomato that is wrong, don't save tomatoes from it or the plant next to it. Let's use the one over here on the end and save all of our tomatoes on it, you know, because you've got better odds. But you don't have a lot of cross-pollination in this country, not on tomatoes.
Do you have any more varieties that have interesting stories?
Oh, I'm sure I have lots of them. I mean, there's been a few of them cross-pollinations that I've saved. One of the last seeds that I got off of Carolyn Mail was a tomato called Rosedale. And it may not be an heirloom. I don't think it's an heirloom. I actually think it was bred by Bill Jeffords down at Evansville, Indiana. I think he did the breeding on it. But she'd had them seeds in an envelope for several years, and finally, before she passed, she let me have what she had, you know, that she knew wasn't out there. And it was one of them. The first year that I planted it, it's supposed to be a black potato leaf on a potato leaf plant and be a black tomato. I got one that was green on a potato leaf plant. There's only a couple other green one ripes, Green Giant being one of them, that's on a potato leaf plant. This is not Green Giant. It's not the same shape. It's not the same flavor. It's the biggest green tomato that I've ever grew. It came out, I call it Green Rosedale because I got it out of a pack of Rosedale. I do not think it was a cross-pollination, because if it was a cross-pollination, it was pure from day one, because every year I've grew it, which is 6 now thereafter. Every plant that I've grew has been identical, and I get 1.5 pounds green tomato on a potato leaf plant that is not Green Giant. It's different shaped. I don't know what this tomato is. I just call it Green Rosedale, but interesting to me.
you've talked about your connection with Carolyn and how you've received so many seeds there. And I'm curious if you have any other stories about connections that you've made specifically through exchanging seeds.
Yeah, I can give you a good one right now. This happened before the Ukrainian, I don't know why on some of this stuff, which I always give Jesus credit for a lot of this stuff, but this is before Ukraine and Russia started their conflict, we'll call it, or war going on over there. I had already pulled probably 2/3 of the Russian and Ukrainian tomatoes in my tomatoes and already had them in the ground before this ever happened. Why did this happen? I don't know. I think maybe Jesus told me to do that, that people in Ukraine and Russia may be needing their heirlooms back someday. One of my best tomato people over in Russia, I didn't contact her this year because of what's going on, but I'm going to in the future, but her name is Marina. She said that she has noticed one of the things that she had told me she got a lot of seeds off of Tatiana up in Canada, and I forget who her other source here that she got a lot of seeds off of, but she said she had noticed that when she looked at seed descriptions that if me or Carolyn Mail said that it was a good tomato, that it is a good tomato. And some of these other people's opinion to her means very little, but our opinion meant more because our taste buds are the same. If Carolyn Tomato told me with only one exception that a tomato was good, it was good tasting tomato, our tastes was just the same. And I'd say Marina's must be the same way, She says, if you say it's good, I know that it is, That's kind of odd that somebody that you've never met and never dealt with until 4 or 5 years ago over in Russia decides that, hey, if Neil Lockhart said it was good, you better grow it. Well, that means a little bit of something to me. But she has been a big help to me getting me Russian and Ukrainian varieties, and we just trade heads up, or it don't even have to be even, She gives me what I want in her collection, I give her what I want in my collection, and actually most of my seed savers exchange people, that I deal with. There's no money exchanged hands. We don't want money, we want somebody to preserve this seed. Craig LaHoo, you sent me an email the other day, and he is wanting to know what is the freshest Dorothy's Green tomato seed that I had. His is very old and he needs a fresh supply. Well, Craig is a good friend of mine through the Seed Savers, but I hate it that I haven't pulled his tomato, but I don't have time right now. Craig's gonna either have to plant it in a week when I pull his seed out that he's wanting, or he's gonna have to wait until next year.
Can you talk about the growing conditions and how that's related to your practices with growing tomatoes?
Well, I'd say the main thing is the wind. You have to stake a tomato plant where I live. There ain't or the wind's gonna tear it to pieces, or you've got to have a cage and or at least a stake, to hold it in place, because the wind's gonna blow it over. And if you got tomatoes laying on the ground around here, they're gonna rot. You got to get them off the ground. So yes, I do have 1,000 tomato cages that has to be pulled and put on every year. That's a lot of work.
Are there people in your family that help you with your garden?
Heck no. Yeah, they help eat it.
I meant like putting up the tomato cages and planting. You do that all yourself?
No, the garden's mine.
Okay.
I do have people help me occasionally when I get in a bind or whatever, and I do have people that I can hire to do it, but I need the exercise and all that. I can't do what I used to do. I just plug along at my slower speed now. I have a lot more aches and pains. That's the reason that Neil started about 6 years ago collecting supplement troughs, because he knows one of these days he's not going to be able to bend over again. He has a big pile of good dirt out there and about 100 and some supplement troughs. Hey, it's a lot easier to garden if you don't have to bend over very far, or you can sit on a chair right there and tend your tomato plant instead of having to bend over all the way to the ground.
What is your favorite dish made with tomatoes?
Tomato pie. My sister makes the best ones in the world. Tomatoes and your choice of different cheeses in it, probably some milk and eggs, and you bake it in the oven and bring it out and you eat it until you get sick. Then you go eat some more. They use mayonnaise in it sometimes Miracle Whip on the inside. If you get on the internet, you'll find all kinds of recipes. You just keep going on them until you hit on one that you like. And I think about anybody that likes tomatoes and cheese and eggs would like a tomato pie. I mean, you can make it your whole meal.
Do you have anything else that you like to grow with your tomatoes?
You mean just stuff that I like to grow in the garden?
Yeah.
I like to grow a little bit of everything, green beans, corn, potatoes, squash, okra. I like it all. There's nothing from the garden that isn't good, In the past, I've grew out over 100 varieties of garlic at one time. At one time, I had over 1,200 kinds of irises, heirloom irises. At one time, I had 30-some heirloom rose bushes. I still have over 100 kinds of heirloom apple trees out in the orchard that is very overrun and it needs attention, let's just say it like that. All that stuff, I'm obsessive compulsive when I start stuff like that, and I wouldn't want to be any other way. I mean, I've had doctors tell me I'm obsessive compulsive. That's the only way I know how to live. I mean, whatever I do, I get into, all the way. I mean, who else wants to beat themselves for weeks out in the garden in the hot sun, Nobody needs 1,000 tomato plants each year, It is a passion, but I'm passionate about everything I do. I go all in. That's the only thing I know, and that's what keeps me ticking.
Do you have any advice for anyone who wants to start seed saving or start a tomato collection like you have?
Well, the first thing they need to do probably is join the Seed Savers Exchange and then don't be scared to save seeds. So what if you got a cross? You probably didn't, but isolate it by a few feet or whatever on a tomato, you're probably not going to get a cross. If you're growing other things, a lot of them's not bad about crossing either, Don't be afraid to list seeds. It's worth it. You're going to make a lot of friends and contacts and have a lot of fun that you couldn't have if you don't join the Seed Savers Exchange.